there's a story going around, unconfirmed, that when the MCU finally launches the X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that the X-Men team is going to be sans Wolverine. No Wolverine, says this report going around. Now, of course, that would be the complete opposite of the way Fox handled the X-Men, because when they launched the X-Men, the very first movie was about Wolverine meeting the X-Men and joining the X-Men, and away they go. Now, comic purists will, of course, note that, hey, in the original X-Men team, there was no Wolverine. Who was in the original X-Men? It was Cyclops, it was Jean Grey, it was Beast, it was Angel, and Iceman, right? And, of course, Professor X. So that was the original team. So that's what's going around. But this is the specific report going around. This comes to us from CBR. And they're quoting, granted, everybody's got to take this with a giant grain of salt because it's coming from a Twitter account. All right. One that has predicted a couple things. Not always right, but predicted a couple things. So you got some outlets like a really good one like CBR reporting on this. But this is what they're saying. The current idea is to reboot the X-Men in the MCU does not feature Wolverine on the team. The scooper also hints that the studio's plan for the mutants is connected to Marvel, starting to push the X-Men so hard across all mediums and will continue to push them until they're on the big screen. If this rumor turns out to be true, it will be a stark contrast to 20th Century Fox's X-Men film series, which I was just saying this, which prominently featured or mentioned Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in almost every single entry. I'm of two minds on this. The one part of me thinks, you know what? That would be a little bit more true to the comic book origins. Wolverine did not come around until much later. It would also be neat to not lead with your heaviest power hitter, you know, because look, the most popular X-Men character is obviously Wolverine. He just is, right? So it would actually be kind of interesting to not lead. Like, hey, in baseball, Jonathan, you're gonna like this. I'm gonna use a baseball analogy. Whee! I don't even like baseball. Where do you put your heaviest hitter? In the leadoff spot? Nah, you make him bat fourth. You put your best hitter fourth. Because then, you know, hopefully you get a couple guys on base with the first three batters, and you got somebody up who's got a higher potential to knock in those runs, right? So maybe the idea is to bring Wolverine in a little bit later, not have your best come out right off the gate. At the same time, it almost seems important to lead off by having Wolverine there. I mean, again, he is the most popular X-Men character amongst non-comic book fans. I mean, if you go around and ask non-comic book readers, name an X-Man, I don't think I'm being improper by saying I think 80% of those people will say Wolverine before they say Bishop, or before they say Blink, or before they say Domino, or before they say, you know, Cyclops, or whatever. Before they say any of them, I think most people are just going to say Wolverine. And if you want to get people on board right away, maybe you should be leading with Wolverine being on the team. All that is to say, I'm intrigued by this idea. I don't know that this is true. I have a feeling Disney won't want to launch without having, you know, Wolverine on that team. I mean, look, when they launched Avengers, they didn't launch with a bunch of B-listers. They launched Avengers by having Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk. They had all of them on there. So I don't know that Disney would actually want to launch without Wolverine, but I gotta say, okay, if I'm a studio executive, I put Wolverine in the team right away. But as a fan, I gotta say I'm intrigued by the idea of not leading with him. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Kickstart a fresh fall routine with HelloFresh. HelloFresh handles all the meal planning and shopping to deliver everything you need to cook up a tasty meal right at home. They do the hard part, and you get to take the credit. HelloFresh takes the stress out of mealtime by delivering fresh ingredients and easy recipes right to your door. So this fall, skip that extra trip to the grocery store and have dinner ready in no time with America's #1 meal kit. Like we've mentioned before, Ann and I are both working professionals, and mealtime is sometimes a bit stressful. That's why we absolutely love HelloFresh. It's nutritious, it's delicious, and we actually have a really good time making dinner together. So guys, go to HelloFresh.com/50Campea and use the code 50Campea for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50Campea and use the code 50Campea for 50% off plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Chris, you're hearing this report. First question is, do you think the report is true? And secondly, if you're an exec at Disney, do you start off the X-Men franchise with Wolverine as a part of it, or do you save him for a little bit later? What would you do?
I do think there's validity to this. I really, really do. And as an executive, if I am in the seat here, do I want to give everyone the main course, or do I want to start them out with an appetizer? Now, Wolverine didn't show up in the comics until about 1974 in Hulk 181. That was his first performance in comics. And then we don't see him again with the X-Men until 1975 when Charles Xavier recruits him.
Right.
That, to me, is a more interesting story to tell here, of having that recruitment process, of having your team, kind of like we have in that OG X-Men movie of, oh, okay, Logan's meeting everyone, yada, yada, yada. But I like the idea of having the established X-Men, seeing them, having different window characters, and then bringing in Wolverine, especially because Hugh Jackman is still so fresh for all of us. I mean, he's going to be in Deadpool 3. And I think that's who everyone really associates with it. And while audiences, I think, are quick to move on and accept another person in a role, look at all our Spider-Men, look at all our Batmen, I do think Hugh Jackman has been tied to this character for decades, and giving us a little bit of respite would be really beneficial. And that way, then we can usher in our new Wolverine, who I assume is going to be Daniel Radcliffe.
Hey, listen, I've surprisingly gotten on board with you on that. I am on board with Daniel Radcliffe as Wolverine now.
He'd be so good. He'd be so good. But we need that little bit of a palate cleanser. Introduce us to the X-Men. Wolverine is obviously one of the ones, too, who we could understand why societally people are a little wary of him. He shoots knives out of his body, essentially. Right? That's not somebody who you maybe want to go have a meet and greet with at Superhero Con, at Avengers Con. He seems like a very gruff, scary guy. And those are the kind of mutants we can build towards, too. So we do have that differential between the lunchbox heroes and the mutants who we're unwary of.
I agree with everything you said. The other part of me is just, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And do you want to shock and awe, come out of the gate with Wolverine or not? But you may raise a good point, too, about the Hugh Jackman factor, about maybe just a little bit of a breath, because we are, like you said, we're getting him in Deadpool 3. Maybe we are going to need a little bit of a breath before we jump right into a new actor playing the role. We're going to have to keep our eyes on that. Hey, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.